It was all because she found out her ex was in an arranged marriage, forced into it. I held her tight, desperately trying to make her stay, but she just smashed the bouquet of flowers in my face. Eleanor Vance shoved me away. I can't just stand by and watch him be forced to marry someone he doesn't love. Ethan Gray and I made a pact. If either of us ended up marrying someone we didn't love, we'd run away together. I stared at her, stunned. Then what about me? What am I supposed to do? Sincere Clark, can't you stop being so selfish for once? Did you have to propose today of all days? He was your best friend, wasn't he? You've disappointed me so much. Eleanor left me standing there and walked away. Just then, my mother, Catherine Clark, called, pressuring me about the arranged marriage. Fine, let's do it. Let's have the arranged marriage. What did you say? There was silence on the other end of the line, followed by my mother's astonished voice. I couldn't blame her for being shocked. I always knew she disliked Eleanor. For the 7 years Eleanor and I had been together, she would call me every few days, demanding I break up with her and accept the family's arranged marriage. But no matter what tactics she used, I remained unmoved, coldly refusing every time. My sudden agreement completely threw off her rhythm. My cheek throbbed with a dull pain. I raised a hand to touch it, and it came away covered in blood. The moment Eleanor smashed the roses I gave her into my face, I realized that my years of persistence had all been a joke. The night wind stung my eyes, and I heard my own voice, low and hoarse. I said, I agree to the arranged marriage. My mother's voice was tinged with joy. Now that's more like it, Sincere. You're the only son of the Clark family. Eleanor Vance was never good enough for you. Marrying into a good family and inheriting the business is the path you were meant to take. She was right. Eleanor and I were never meant to be on the same path. Ethan and I had known each other since we were kids. We were childhood friends, the best of brothers. 8 years ago, Ethan called me, sounding completely lost. Sincere, help me. His family didn't approve of his relationship with Eleanor. His mother, Helen Gray, had threatened to kill herself, and Ethan finally caved and agreed to break up. But Eleanor, having been dumped, couldn't handle it and went to a bar to drink herself into a stupor. Ethan didn't dare face her, so he begged me to go and make sure she was safe. When I got to the bar, Eleanor was surrounded by 5 burly men. Her clothes were torn. I rushed in and knocked them down. What followed was a chaotic 1-on-5 brawl. I'd been training in combat sports since I was a kid, so driving them off wasn't too difficult, but I inevitably took a few hits to the face. Eleanor threw herself into my arms, sobbing and thanking me. I took her back to her rented apartment, and she insisted on pulling me inside to clean my wounds. After she put a bandage on my face, she suddenly cupped my cheeks and kissed me without a second thought. Are you crazy? I pushed her away and fled. The next time I saw her was on the runway. By then, I was an unknown designer who had fallen out with my family to pursue my dream on my own. She was a famous model whose walk was worth $1 million. Someone had targeted me. My carefully designed dress was torn, thrown on the floor, and stomped on. But Eleanor walked over, and under everyone's astonished gaze, she picked up the ruined dress from the floor. She changed into the gown that everyone had called trash. As she walked the runway, she was absolutely radiant. Riding on her coattails, I gained some fame of my own. Perhaps that was the moment I started falling for her. She began to pursue me. She became my exclusive model. 7 years ago, we officially started dating. Because of that, Ethan cut all ties with me. Once, I accidentally discovered that Eleanor was still in contact with Ethan. I got jealous and asked her if she couldn't let go of her old flame. Eleanor got angry. Sincere, is that really what you think of me? Can't you stop being so sensitive? You're making me so tired. I genuinely thought I was in the wrong, and after that I never interfered with her social life again. But I never imagined that on the day I was going to propose, she would leave me to go crash Ethan's wedding. I sat there, lost and dejected, in the middle of the proposal scene I had so carefully arranged. My phone buzzed. It was a video from Ethan, who hadn't contacted me in ages. It was his wedding. In the video, Eleanor, wearing a wedding dress studded with pearls, pushed open the church doors just before he could say "I do." She stood there, tears in her eyes but a smile on her face. "Ethan, I'm here to marry you." Ethan's eyes turned red. He abandoned his bride at the altar and ran towards Eleanor. The two of them embraced and kissed passionately on the red carpet. My eyes burned as I watched, my heart bleeding. That wedding dress, it had taken me 2 years of painstaking work to create. Eleanor loved pearls, so I personally went diving for them, nearly getting swept away by a current, my life hanging by a thread. I had hand-stitched over 1,000 pearls onto that dress. Every single stitch was the result of my sleepless nights, and she wore it to crash another man's wedding. A text from Ethan came through. A love that never dies can't lose to something as fleeting as time. Sincere, it's been 8 years and she still can't get over me. Let her go. We can still be friends. How laughable. He was the one who abandoned Eleanor back then. When he found out we were dating, he unilaterally cut me off. Now that Eleanor had chosen him, he was saying we could still be friends. He sounded nothing like a 28-year-old man. Childish. I put my phone away and went back to the home Eleanor and I shared. Since I had agreed to the arranged marriage, I had to make a clean break with her. Besides, she had already made her choice. At this point, there was nothing left for me to hold on to. After packing my clothes, my eyes fell on a photo of us. In the picture, Eleanor was walking the runway with an air of proud arrogance, and I was in the audience, my eyes filled with nothing but her. I suddenly felt a sense of dawning realization. That's right. In my relationship with Eleanor, I had always been the one looking up at her. I picked up a pair of scissors and cut myself out of the photograph. The photo now had a piece missing, but it didn't ruin the aesthetic. Eleanor was still as radiant as ever. It turned out that without me, nothing changed at all. I tossed the cutout of myself into the trash. Sincere, what are you doing? Eleanor pushed the door open. I froze for a second. I thought she would be with Ethan tonight. I didn't expect her to come back so soon. Eleanor rushed over and snatched the scissors from my hand. Are you insane, Sincere? What are you trying to do now? Can you just snap out of it? Strange. What was she so angry about? She threw down the scissors, her face cold as ice. So I crashed a wedding. Is that any reason for you to self-harm? Sincere, are you trying to threaten me with such a low-life tactic now, self-harm? Hilarious. Why would she think I'd hurt myself over her? You're overthinking it. I took a deep breath, only then realizing how terribly hoarse my voice was. Eleanor was still wearing the wedding dress I had made for her. Tailor-made, it naturally suited her perfectly. She looked so beautiful it was unreal, but the hickey on her neck was too conspicuous. The sight was like a knife in my eyes. Because she was a model, Eleanor was very particular about her body and never let me leave any marks on her. But now she was standing in front of me wearing the dress I made for her, sporting a love bite. I opened my mouth, unsure for a moment whether I should tell her to change out of the dress or break up with her first. Eleanor shoved a first aid kit into my arms. Take care of the cut on your face yourself. Sincere, there's no need to use self-harm to pressure me. I'm not falling for it. She seemed to have forgotten that she was the one who had thrown the roses in my face. She thought I had cut my own face with the scissors. Suddenly, all the strength drained from my body. Even speaking felt exhausting. In the end, while she was taking a shower, I dragged my suitcase and disappeared into the night. I was finally back in the home I hadn't set foot in for 8 years. My mother rushed over, first hugging me, then pounding on my chest several times. You ungrateful son, 8 years, do you even see me as your mother anymore? I'm sorry. I pressed my lips together, a bitter feeling suddenly welling up in my chest. I'd been away from home for 8 years. To prove I could make it on my own without them, I had refused all their help. To avoid being trapped at home, I didn't even come back. Later, when they tried to force me to break up with Eleanor, my contact with them grew less and less. Only now did I realize how foolish all of that was. I opened my mouth to say something, but then I noticed that Ethan's parents were also in my house. They were good friends and business partners with my parents. With Ethan having just run out on his wedding, neither of them looked happy. Aunt Helen looked at me and demanded, "What's so great about that Eleanor Vance anyway? Was it worth it for both of you to fight with your families over her?" I couldn't answer. She started to cry. "Weren't you two together? Why didn't you keep an eye on her and let her ruin my son's wedding?" My mom didn't like hearing that. "What are you talking about? Why didn't you keep an eye on your own son? If you had, would he have run out on his wedding?" "Oh sure, you're the expert on raising sons. If it wasn't for your son dating that wench, I would have made sure she couldn't survive in this country. How would she have had the chance to seduce my son again? Enough seeing their argument escalate," I yelled impatiently. They both turned to look at me. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Stop fighting. Do you think this is the outcome I wanted? Do you think I wanted to be the fool who did all the work for someone else's benefit? Do you think this is my fault? After I finished, I went to my room. A moment later, Eleanor called. Where did you go? Home. She was surprised. Why did you suddenly go home? To discuss my marriage. On the other end of the line, Eleanor's previously cold voice softened considerably. Did your family finally accept me? She knew my family didn't like her, but she didn't know they had been pushing for an arranged marriage all along. I had always thought these were my family's issues and didn't want to burden her with them, so I dealt with it all alone. Only now did it dawn on me that it was all just self-indulgent martyrdom. Eleanor misunderstood, thinking I had gone home to discuss our marriage with my family. She asked with concern, "How's your face? Did you put any medicine on it? Sincere, if you get a scar, I won't want you anymore, you know." I looked in the mirror at the several intersecting scratches on my face. They weren't deep and had already scabbed over, but they still looked a bit shocking. "It's fine." I kept it brief. "Is there anything else?" Eleanor paused. In 7 years, this was the first time I had been so cold to her. "Sincere, are you still angry with me? Could you really bear to watch your own friend be forced to marry someone he doesn't love? Do you still think I was wrong?" I had no energy to argue. I didn't want to struggle anymore. "You weren't wrong. It was my fault. It has always been my fault." Eleanor breathed a sigh of relief. "I'm glad you understand. By the way, Sincere, before we get married, I need to have a wedding with Ethan first." "Whatever you want." I thought it was absurd, but I couldn't be bothered to care. After all, what did it have to do with me? Perhaps afraid I would get angry, she began to explain. "After we broke up, Ethan could never let me go. Me dating you caused him immense pain. I've decided to give him a wedding before I marry you, to make up for his regrets." I almost died laughing. Turns out, when you're truly speechless, you really do laugh. "I know. You don't have to tell me. It's your business, you decide." Eleanor was very pleased. "Sincere, I knew you would support me." Then she asked, "Will you come to my wedding with him?" I was just learning how capable Eleanor could be. She had mastered the art of psychological cruelty. I laughed and asked, "Do you want me to go?" She answered very seriously, "I know this puts you in a difficult position, but it's my first wedding and I hope you can be there. Besides, Ethan wants you to come too. In his heart, you've always been his best friend." The irony was staggering. I sneered, "I'm busy at home with my own wedding plans, so I won't be able to make it. I wish you a happy wedding." I hung up right after saying that. In the following days, Eleanor didn't contact me again. I started to take over company affairs while meticulously preparing for the wedding with my fiancée. I had never met my betrothed. She was a Chinese-American named Victoria Sterling. Our two family corporations had a partnership. Mr. Sterling had said his daughter always wanted to live in the country and wished to marry someone here. That's when he proposed the idea of an arranged marriage to my father. My dad, Richard Clark, had long wanted to pin me down and get me married, so he had agreed early on. He never expected that because of my refusal, the matter would be dragged out for 5 years. My mother took me aside, her voice earnest. "We've made that girl wait for so long, you must treat her well after you're married." I nodded and said I would. A month and a half later, a grand wedding was held at the Royal Court Club. Early in the morning, I went to pick up the bride. Victoria was beautiful, a striking and vibrant kind of beauty. When the bridesmaids were blocking the door, she came over and opened it for me herself. Having grown up abroad, she didn't care for these customs. She shoved a pair of wedding shoes into my hands. She said with a smile, "Sincere, Clark, I'm tired of sitting here. Hurry up, put my shoes on and take me to get married." I bent down, helped her put on the shoes, picked her up and carried her out of the mansion and into the wedding car. When we arrived at the venue, just as I stepped out of the car, I saw Eleanor standing at the entrance wearing a wedding dress. Her anxious expression turned into a smile the moment she saw me. "Sincere, I knew you would come to my wedding." I froze. I truly hadn't expected Eleanor and Ethan's wedding to be on the same day, let alone at the same venue. Ethan stood beside her, looking me up and down. "You're late. Eleanor refused to go inside until you arrived." He paused, then frowned. "What's with the wedding suit? Are you planning to crash this wedding too?" Hearing this, Eleanor frowned in disapproval. "Sincere, you promised me you'd let me finish this wedding. You can't crash it. Don't make things difficult. For me. It's already evening. Are you two still daydreaming? You're thinking way too much." An arrogant female voice came from behind. Victoria got out of the car, strode over in her high heels and linked her arm with mine. "He has his own wedding to attend. Why would he want to crash? Yours. Eleanor's eyes instantly turned red as she looked at the bride beside me in disbelief. Sincere, what's she saying? Excuse us. I cut her off coldly, then took Victoria's hand and walked right past her. I didn't look back. Sincere, Clark. Eleanor called my name again and again from behind. Finally, a security guard stopped her. Ma'am, please show your invitation. The guests at the wedding were all prominent figures in the country. I had been away from home for so long that I didn't recognize most of them. Victoria had also just returned to the country and wasn't familiar with the local social circles. So, all the socializing was handled by our parents. Suddenly someone shouted, Miss Sterling, I advise you to think twice. Are you sure you want to marry Mr. Clark? I turned to look. It was a man I didn't recognize, about my father's age. He looked somewhat familiar, probably the CEO of some company. I frowned and asked in a low voice, What is the meaning of asking the bride such a question at my wedding? He scoffed. Everyone knows the young master of the Clark family shirks his responsibilities. He ignores the company to go play at making clothes. 8 years ago, he even got into a massive fight over some young model. Is such a man really worthy of your trust, Miss Sterling? I hope you'll reconsider. After he spoke, I had a good idea of who he was. 8 years ago, when I helped Eleanor, I fought 5 men. One of them was injured the most severely. I had cracked his head open. That man, Mr. Thompson, had come after me, determined to send me to jail. In the end, the court ruled it as self-defense. He had viciously told me to just wait. I hadn't seen him since. My parents must have stepped in to make him back off. I heard that after I cracked his son's head open, he wasn't quite right in the head anymore, that he'd become slow-witted. As a father, he certainly couldn't swallow that, so it wasn't surprising that he'd cause a scene at my wedding. It's just that I hadn't been in a good mood lately. He was too noisy, annoying. But before I could say anything, Victoria stepped in front of me. She looked down on the man before her, her tone disdainful. Since when is it the business of someone like you to comment on my marriage? Now that he and I have walked down this aisle, we are husband and wife. To humiliate him is to humiliate me. With that, she picked up a glass of wine and threw it in Mr. Thompson's face. Who I choose to marry is none of your business. This is just a lesson. Get out. Mr. Thompson was furious, his eyes bulging, but he could only force a smile. Miss Sterling, you've misunderstood. I was just afraid you were being deceived by him. I didn't mean to offend. Victoria smashed the glass on his face. Then she covered her mouth in mock surprise. Oh, I'm so sorry, my hand slipped. Sir, if you don't get out of here right now, I don't know where the next thing will be smashed. Your family wouldn't want a second idiot, would it? Mr. Thompson trembled with rage, his eyes red. I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling tired, and waved my hand. Security guards rushed over and dragged Mr. Thompson away. I could hear guests whispering among themselves. This new Mrs. Clark has quite a temper. Seems like she'll be hard to get along with. I heard the Sterling family has a gray reputation abroad, that their business isn't entirely clean. Then we'd better be careful, not to get on her bad side. Victoria grabbed my arm. She pulled me towards the altar, then turned to face me. She had pushed the officiant aside. She looked up at me and asked in a clear, strong voice, Mr. Sincere Clark, from this day forward, we are husband and wife to share in hardship and grow old together. I am very willing. Are you? Aye. Sincere, the doors to the hall were suddenly thrown open. Just like I had seen in that video, Eleanor, wearing the wedding dress I had meticulously designed, burst into the ceremony. She stood below the stage, meeting my gaze defiantly in front of everyone. Don't. I'm begging you, she pleaded. Don't say yes to her. Eleanor's appearance was a surprise to everyone, including me. Wasn't she supposed to be giving Ethan a wedding? What was she doing at my wedding now, or did she just enjoy crashing weddings? I watched her quietly. As our eyes met, I could feel her panic and desperation. I looked away. I turned my gaze to Victoria, and my eyes became firm. Word by word, I said, I do. With that, I took her hand and placed the ring on her finger. No, Eleanor burst into tears. My mother, who had been tense ever since Eleanor's sudden appearance, finally let out a sigh of relief. She waved her hand and ordered the security guards. Get her out of here. A Clark family wedding is no place for any riffraff to just walk in. Eleanor probably wanted to say something, but before she could, she was dragged away. The rest of the wedding went relatively smoothly. It was finally over. Victoria and I moved into the new house my parents had given us. Victoria kicked off her high heels, pouting and complaining. "This dress is so heavy. Sincere, help me get it off." I went behind her and untied the laces. There. But she was insistent. "No, it doesn't count until it's all off." I didn't know if I was imagining it, but it seemed like Victoria liked me. But I couldn't figure it out. We had just met for the first time. What was there to like about me? Maybe I was just overthinking it. After her shower, she climbed right on top of me, wrapping herself around me and demanding more. I politely declined. First, we weren't very familiar with each other. Second, I was genuinely tired. Victoria, exasperated, gave me a light kick. "You good for nothing," I had to laugh. I wrapped her up in the blanket. "Don't be a brat, Your Highness." The next day, I took Victoria back to the Clark family home. My parents adored Victoria. At first, I thought it was because the Sterling family was wealthy, making our marriage a good match. But I soon realized that wasn't it, because my father transferred the portion of company shares that should have been mine to Victoria. My mother held Victoria's hands, her voice full of meaning. "My dear child, the future of the Clark family rests on you now." Victoria smiled brilliantly, a look of complete confidence on her face. "Don't worry, Mom and Dad, whether it's the Clark Corporation or Sincere Clark, I, Victoria Sterling, will have them both completely in hand." My father was very pleased. With a grand wave of his hand, he gave Victoria the position of Vice President of the Clark Corporation. "Wait," I was puzzled. "If she's the Vice President, then what am I?" My dad clicked his tongue. "I never expected the corporation to rely on you anyway, you good for nothing. Go play with your fashion design, looking at their feigned expressions of annoyance." I stood there, stunned. A sour feeling spread through my chest, and finally, my eyes turned red. My mother sighed and took my hand. "Child, go do what you love. Your father and I support you, but remember, you always have a home here." Victoria stood behind my mother and raised an eyebrow at me. Back at our new home, Victoria collapsed into my arms, laughing. "Sincere Clark, you're such a crybaby." My eyes were still warm. I pushed her away. "What are you talking about? This is called being moved." "Moved?" Victoria took the opportunity to wrap her arms around me. "Then you should be thanking me. I was the one who volunteered to tell your parents I'd manage the company. That's the only reason they agreed to let you continue being a designer." Honestly, I was stunned. It took me a long moment to speak. "Why are you helping me?" She smiled, tilted her head up, and gave me a kiss on the cheek. "Because I like you." Before I could ask more, she changed the subject. "Will you have a collection in the Paris Fashion Week next month?" I nodded. "Yes, but it's not ready yet. Over the past year, I had designed a whole collection to participate in Paris Fashion Week. It had been selected. The garments were actually already made. But in the past, Eleanor had been my exclusive model. All my clothes were tailored to her measurements. Eleanor was 5'9", but she had a very narrow frame and a larger bust than most models. Other models couldn't fit into my clothes, and there was no way I was going to let Eleanor continue to be my model, so the garments needed to be resized. Victoria was very understanding. "Go and get busy. You can leave the company matters to me." The next day I drove to my studio. Just as I stepped out of the elevator, I saw Eleanor standing at the entrance. When she saw me, she burst into tears of joy. "Thank goodness, Sincere, I knew you'd still come to the studio." I was silent for a moment. "What are you doing here?" "I'm your model. Fashion Week is next month, and I haven't even tried on the clothes yet," Eleanor said, trying to follow me inside. I blocked her at the door. "That won't be necessary." "Eleanor, you are no longer my model." Her face instantly turned pale. Tears streamed down her face again. "Sincere, I was wrong, okay? I didn't have a wedding with Ethan. I went to your wedding to crash it." She grabbed my hand. "I know when you didn't leave with me at the wedding, when you put the ring on her finger, it was all to punish me, right? Sincere, I really know I was wrong. Can you divorce her, please? You can't just marry someone random because you're angry with me." I was both angry and amused. Even now, Eleanor still thought I was in love with her. She thought that as long as she admitted she was wrong and softened up, I would forgive her unconditionally, just like every other time. I shook her hand off. "Eleanor, when you wore the wedding dress I made to crash Ethan's wedding, did you ever consider my feelings? Do you have any idea how much time and energy I put into making that dress? I worked until I had a nervous breakdown to finish it. I was going to give it to you after I proposed, but you wore it to crash another wedding. What do you take me for? A dog that comes when you call and leaves when you shoo it away?" Eleanor was frightened, crying uncontrollably. No, that's not it. I'm sorry, I was wrong. It was Ethan who kept coming to me. He said he didn't want to marry someone he didn't love and begged me to crash the wedding to get him out of it. At this point, I don't need your excuses. I grabbed her arm and pushed her out the door. As I was about to close it, she blocked it again. Don't push me away, Sincere. Please divorce her. Even if we have to break up, I don't want you to force yourself to be with someone you don't love. When you put the ring on her finger, my heart was breaking. I cut her off coldly. You don't need to worry about me. My wife is wonderful. With her, I can focus on doing everything I want to do. Eleanor, she is so much better than you. With that, I ignored her struggles and locked the studio door. I spent my time in the studio altering the clothes. Victoria had found me a new model, and I was resizing the garments to her measurements, so it wasn't too difficult. In one day, I had already finished one piece. Seeing that it was getting late, I packed up and headed home. Just as I reached the parking garage, a dark figure rushed out and punched me hard in the stomach. The pain left me weak, and I collapsed against the wall. Then I heard Ethan's furious shout, Sincere Clark, are you even a man? Eleanor was with you for 8 years. What right do you have to hurt her? I was sweating from the pain, but I laughed, my shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Heh, ha ha. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then grabbed me by the collar and pulled me up. What the hell are you laughing at? I'm laughing at you. Looking at his face contorted with rage, I sneered. Ethan, I'm laughing at how naive you are. To put it nicely, you're innocent. To be blunt, you're just stupid, you. He raised his fist to hit me again, but I blocked it with precision. I squeezed his wrist hard, watching his face gradually contort in pain. When you didn't want Eleanor, you begged me to help her. When you wanted her, you told me to let her go. Now that I've let her go, you're accusing me of hurting her. Ethan, do you really think the whole world revolves around the two of you? Ethan's face turned red. That's because I thought Eleanor still loved me, but on your wedding day she cried and begged me to let her go. Do you know how much that hurt me? The person she loves is you. She left me to crash your wedding. Do you have any idea how much pain I was in? I gave a cold, dismissive sneer. You think I don't know? Ethan, you're just experiencing what I went through. How is your pain any worse than mine? But I love her. I let her go so she could pursue her happiness, and you hurt her happiness? It was as if I'd just heard a joke. If you truly wanted her to be happy, you shouldn't have contacted her at all while we were dating, and you certainly shouldn't have manipulated her into crashing your wedding. Ethan, all of Eleanor's misfortunes were caused by you and her. You both deserve it. You're lying, Ethan shouted, swinging his fist. I easily blocked it, then countered with a punch to his face and a kick that sent him flying. Ethan collapsed on the ground in pain. You're just as weak as you've always been. I had no interest in fighting him. He was no match for me. I got in my car and sped away. The next time I saw Eleanor was backstage at Paris Fashion Week. My assistant ran up to me. Mr. Clark, there's a problem, you have to come see. I rushed backstage and saw Mia sitting in a chair, her arm bleeding. Mia was my new model. What happened? I asked as I opened the first aid kit and started bandaging her arm. Mia told me in English. As she was about to change, the model Eleanor Vance suddenly rushed over and pushed her. She fell and hit her arm on the corner of a table, cutting it. Eleanor, that psycho, where is she? Mia looked towards the changing room. She had taken my designed dress to change into it, but it had been over 10 minutes and she still hadn't come out. I walked to the changing room door, suppressing my anger. Eleanor, come out. No response. I kicked the door open. Eleanor was slumped on the floor, wearing only her underwear. She was clutching the dress, looking up at me. It doesn't fit. None of it fits. She sobbed. Sincere, if I can't be with you, does that mean I can't even be your exclusive model anymore? I gave her a long, hard look. This is the result of your own choices. I snatched the dress from her arms, turned and slammed the door shut. With Mia injured, I was ready to just pull out of the show, but she took the dress from my hands. Don't worry, I can do this. Her wound was carefully bandaged, and I had a special effects artist paint a design on the bandage that matched the elements of the dress. Just as we were about to go on stage, Eleanor emerged from the changing room, having changed her clothes. She walked up to me. Sincere, are you sure about this? The only reason you became a famous designer is because I was your model. She's a new model. She won't be able to make your clothes stand out when it came to her profession. Eleanor was incredibly arrogant. She wasn't wrong. For the past 7 years, we had been a package deal. She was the model for all my shows. There was even a saying in the industry. Van Gogh had his sunflowers. Monet had his water lilies. Sincere Clark had Eleanor Vance. Everyone believed that the reason I became famous was that Eleanor, as my model, added significant value to my designs. This fashion week, when the audience heard that my model wasn't Eleanor, many expressed their doubts. There was no shortage of detractors. Some competitors were happy that Sincere was finally untied from Eleanor. But when the new model, Mia, walked onto the runway in time with the music, the audience members all raised their phones. Eleanor was slender and delicate, a goddess descending on the runway. But Mia had a powerful presence, full of strength, a different kind of beauty, a battle angel. It was more in line with contemporary ideals. By the end of the show, Mia was an overnight sensation. No one said anymore that Sincere Clark needed Eleanor Vance. Victoria, who had been watching the show from the audience, ran backstage and threw her arms around me in excitement. "That was amazing, hubby, you did it." She then cupped my face and gave me a hard kiss. Eleanor stood by, stunned, before slumping to the floor. I paid her no mind, letting Victoria pull me away to the celebration party she had organized for me. The party was over. Victoria and I went back to the hotel. She threw herself on me, her eyes sparkling. "Hubby, you were amazing. Being praised so directly for the first time made me a little shy." I had just turned my head when she leaned in to kiss me. This time I didn't push her away. Our breaths mingled, and we became more and more lost in each other. In the throes of passion, she clung to me, whispering my name in my ear over and over. It was intoxicating. After our passion subsided, she lay on my chest, her fingers tracing patterns on my skin. "Aren't you tired yet?" I asked her. She went still for a second. Then she leaned in to kiss me again. "Hubby, let's go again." The next day, we didn't get out of bed until lunchtime. Victoria dragged me to see the Eiffel Tower. "When was the last time you saw the tower?" she asked me. I looked at the spire, thinking for a moment. About 10 years ago. I was 18 then, invited to Paris Fashion Week. That was also when I first dreamed of becoming a designer. Victoria smiled at me. "That's when I came to see the tower, too. It was my first time traveling abroad alone after I turned 18. I didn't speak French, and someone stole my wallet. I ended up squatting on the street, trying to sell my paintings. None of them sold, until a boy in a long trench coat came over. My mind was instantly pulled back to that day. After attending Fashion Week, I went to see the Eiffel Tower by myself. Among the crowds, I saw a girl wearing a face mask, drawing for people on the spot. Her drawings were terrible, and she had no customers. It was getting late, and I thought she might really need the money. I gave her 10,000 francs and asked her to draw the Eiffel Tower for me. I saw her eyes fill with tears, sparkling brightly. After I got the painting, I left without looking back. That painting is still hanging in my studio. So the girl who was painting, that was you. Victoria hugged me. "Hubby, do you know, in the moment you handed me that money, in my eyes you were like a god descending. From heaven I fell for you right then. Because of that one act of kindness, Victoria fell in love with me. She loved me for 10 years. She attended every one of my shows and bought every piece I designed. Because she knew I had a girlfriend, she never interfered, silently supporting my dream. It wasn't until I agreed to the arranged marriage that her love could finally be spoken aloud." As the sun set over Paris, Victoria snuggled up beside me. "Hubby, let's love each other for the rest of our lives, okay?" "Yeah, okay." After we returned from Paris, my mother told me that Ethan, in order to be with Eleanor, had threatened his family by taking a lot of sleeping pills. He was sent to the hospital and they revived him. It gave your Aunt Helen such a scare that she finally agreed to let him marry Eleanor. I listened without any reaction, just nodding. "Yeah, that sounds like something he would do." My mother sighed in relief, patting her chest as if still frightened. "Thank goodness you're not like that. If you had threatened to kill yourself back then, I would have been scared to death. Don't worry, I would never do something like that." Seemingly finally convinced that I no longer loved Eleanor, she placed an invitation in my hand. "Ethan asked me to give this to you. It's their wedding invitation. I'm giving it to you, but whether you go or not is your decision." I opened the invitation. The date was 2 months from now. We'll see. When the day came, I didn't go to the wedding. I was holed up in my studio, preparing for the next show. The theme was the ocean. I remembered that the last time I went diving for pearls, I had also collected a lot of exquisite shells that could be used as materials. The only problem was that the box of shells was at the house I used to share with Eleanor. After some thought, I decided to go back and get it. Whether she still lived there or not, today was her wedding day, so she definitely wouldn't be home. It had been several months since I'd been there. As I pushed the door open, a feeling of both familiarity and strangeness made me a bit uncomfortable. The house was clean. She was probably still living here. I searched through a cabinet and found the box of shells. After confirming it was the right one, I left with the box in my arms. Just before I left, I caught a glimpse of the photo on the table. The piece I had cut out was no longer missing. She had actually fished my little piece out of the trash and taped it back on. I stood there in silence for a moment, then turned and left without any lingering feelings. It was all in the past. No matter how much she loved me now, the hurt she had caused me was permanent. But that night, the news of Eleanor ditching her own wedding exploded on social media. The bride, Eleanor Vance, who was supposed to marry the heir of the Gray family, didn't show up at her own wedding. Instead, she appeared at a fashion show. The show was being live-streamed. Eleanor, wearing the pearl-studded wedding dress, stood on the runway, stunning the audience. Reporters asked who designed the dress. Eleanor smiled at the camera. "This wedding dress represents a happiness that was once within my grasp. It didn't have a name before, but now it does the mermaid's tear." She didn't say who the designer was, but the comments section guessed it correctly. "It's definitely designer Sincere Clark." I heard she ditched her boyfriend to crash her ex's wedding, and now she's ditched her own wedding. What is this girl trying to do? Such a weird move. I heard she wore the same dress when she crashed the other wedding. She's so dramatic. The mermaid's tear? She's just trying to say she's seen the error of her ways. Disgusting. Sincere Clark has a beautiful wife now. Stop trying to ride his coattails. Eleanor walked down the runway in the wedding dress, but her steps weren't as light and graceful as they used to be. I had a feeling something was wrong with her, something I couldn't quite put my finger on, until she finished her final walk and suddenly collapsed on the stage. The scene erupted into chaos. Eleanor had committed suicide by taking pills. She was rushed to the hospital to have her stomach pumped, but it was too late to save her. She left a suicide note filled with apologies. She was an orphan, so there was no one to hold a memorial service for her. It was Ethan who, against his family's wishes, arranged for her burial. The tombstone was engraved with, "To my beloved wife." It seemed Ethan had lost his mind, but I never expected he would go so far as to try and burn me to death. The moment the fire started in my studio, I ignored my meticulously designed clothes, grabbed the painting of the Eiffel Tower hanging on the wall, and rushed out of the inferno. I got out in time and wasn't injured. I took Ethan to court. For aggravated assault, destruction of property, and the immense negative impact, he was sentenced to 30 years. Victoria, without a second thought, took the business world by storm and eventually acquired the Gray Corporation. She handed me the acquisition papers and a pregnancy test report at the same time. "Hubby, are you happy?" I carefully pulled her into an embrace and held her for a long, long time.